Hello and welcome to the PopFizz Roblox scripting course. So in this course, we're going to learn how to code in Roblox using the Lua programming language. So in this first lesson, let me show you what we're going to work on. Okay, so here's a demo that I have, and let me move the camera a little bit. And let me hurry. So there's a few things that we're doing in script here. So this one, I'm turning on some effects. So here I turn on a fire. Here I turn on and off a light. And I turn a particle emitter on and off. Hopefully it'll stop here soon. There it goes. And then over here, I am making certain things invisible. And I also turn off can collide so that I can walk through them. And then over here in this section, I am changing the color, the material, and the shape of various objects. And then finally, in this last section, I created a kind of fading bridge that you have to walk across before it fades out from under you. And I made it really easy. It takes a long time for it to fade, and that's what we're going to be working on. We're going to be working on using scripts to change the properties of objects in Roblox. Okay, so let me go ahead and switch over to the presentation for this. Okay, so this is PopFizz Roblox scripting, and we already went through the demo. And the next thing is, so why do we want to use scripts? Okay, well, for one thing, it's a lot of fun. Some people just love to code. Also, these skills, like these coding skills, you can use in other game engines. So if you switch over to something like Unity or Unreal, or even just in other programming courses, you will be able to use the same concepts over and over. Also, without code, it's really hard to make a really good game. There's only so far you can get without scripting in Roblox and in pretty much any game design tool. Code is how you really make great games. Okay, and so let me switch over to Roblox Studio and we can start kind of playing around, and I can show you how we're going to change properties, how we're going to use code in Roblox. So let me go ahead and close this. Actually, let me just minimize it. And let me open Roblox Studio. Okay, and let me find the lesson that we're working on. Here it is. Okay, so here is the game, or here is the Roblox file that I used to create the demo. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to turn around here and recreate some of these over here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is we're going to need a part that we're going to change the properties of. And so let me build a platform first. So I'm just going to place a block here, rename it to platform, and then I'm going to change the size. So for this, I'm going to change the size to, let's say, a 12:120. That is pretty good. Let me move this so it's a little closer to me. Let me turn collisions on. Okay, that looks good. So we have our platform, and then we need an object. Okay, so I'm just going to put a cylinder over here. And I'm going to move it closer, and then I'm going to rotate it so that it's facing up and down, or pointing up and down. Okay, let me change the color of this, and let me change the size. That looks good. Okay, we have a cylinder now. Let me just place it on the surface of the platform, and let me rename this. So I'm just going to call this cylinder. Okay, so now let me show you what we're going to do. So we have a cylinder. And what we have for this cylinder when it's selected is we have a lot of properties, right? And so what I can do is I can change things before the game starts, right? Or before I publish the game. And so if I wanted to change the color or something like the transparency, I could do that before the game started. So let me say I wanted to make this cylinder semi-transparent, right? Or let's say that I wanted to change the color. Well, let me go ahead and change the transparency. So let's say that I wanted to make the transparency 0.5. Now, this cylinder is partly see-through. And if I test this game, you'll see, oh, and I forgot to anchor the platform. Let me go back and anchor that. And let me actually anchor the cylinder as well. I always forget to do that. Okay, let me go ahead and play this again. And you can see that the cylinder is partly transparent. I can see through it and see myself through this cylinder. Okay, so what we've done is what we do all the time, right? We change the properties of our parts. But the thing is, we can only do that before the game is published, before the game is online to play. We can't do this while the actual game is running. Okay, so what scripting allows us to do is to make changes in the properties of our parts during the game. And that really is all that game programming involves. It just involves making parts like cylinders or, obstacles or vehicles, and then changing the properties of those parts. Okay, and that's all we're going to do. So how would we do that in a script? Well, first of all, let me change this back to 0, I think it was. Yeah. Okay. And what we need to do is we need a script. So how do we attach a script to one of our parts? Well, if we go over here to the cylinder and we click on this little white circle with the plus inside, we will see that the very first thing is a script. And if it doesn't show up at the top, you can just type it in. And it'll give you a choice, and we just want a regular script. Okay, here we go. And so right now, this is our only script, so I'm not going to rename it. But as we get more scripts, I'm going to rename them. And just go ahead and delete this print statement that's in there. Okay, so now we have a script. And so how do we, let me think, how do we change the properties on a part? Well, one of the first things we notice is that if we click on this script here, it has properties, and it doesn't have a lot of them. But what it does have is a parent property. It has a parent property, and that parent is the cylinder. And what does that mean? Well, because we attach this script to the cylinder, there's this kind of relationship now between the script and the cylinder. And it goes two ways. The script is the child of the cylinder, and the cylinder is the parent of the script. And you'll see this a lot, this kind of child-parent relationship in your games. And it, like I said, it's a pretty important concept. And so, but what we want is we want to be able to access the properties of the cylinder inside of our script. And right now, all we have is an empty script. So how do we do that? Well, let me show you. So the script is actually the same as this. Oh, and let me show you that there's autocomplete in this. So as soon as I start typing, you'll see that there is an autocomplete option here. And you can click on this and push enter, and it will fill it in for you. And this makes it a lot easier not to make spelling mistakes and stuff like that. So now that we have the script, this script right here is the same. Okay, so this line of code, this word, this keyword script is the same as the object that's in our Explorer window. They're the exact same thing. And so because this object in the Explorer window has properties that we can see here, we can also access the properties of that script object. And the way we do that is with something called a dot operator. And it's just a period. All you do is you type a period. And once you do that, you're going to see the properties for script. And you can see that a bunch of these are the same things we see over here. So the name property is the same as this name property here. And the parent property is the same as this parent property over here, referring to the cylinder that this script is attached to. And so if we select parent and press enter, we now have script.parent. Okay, and what is script.parent? Well, it is the parent of our script. The parent of our script over here is the cylinder. Okay, and so now what we have, script.parent actually refers to the cylinder, the parent. And so if I click on cylinder, there's a whole bunch, many more properties for the cylinder than there are for the script. How do I access those properties? Well, I use that dot operator again. So I say dot, and then I go, and now I have a bunch of properties, and I can scroll through these. So we have material, the parent, we have brick color. Some of these we haven't covered yet. And it actually tells you a little description here if you look to the side. So transparency, which is the one that we're going to change, determines how much a part can be seen through the inverse of part opacity. Okay, and all of these will tell you a little description. And some of these are obvious, right? The brick color, the color of the part. But we're going to choose transparency. So we're going to select it by scrolling down and then pressing enter. And now we have script.parent.transparency. And if we look over here in the property window for cylinder, we'll see that we need to put in a number, right? So this is a numerical property, okay, or a number property. And right now that transparency is 0, but we want to change it. And how do we change it? We type an equal sign. An equal sign lets us change that property. And we can change it to whatever value we want. And I'm just going to choose 0.5. Okay. And that's it. We have our first line of code. And this first line of code says that the parent of our script, which is the cylinder, we're going to choose the transparency property, and we're going to change it to a number value, a different value of 0.5. Okay. And now if we go ahead and test this, you'll notice that when this starts off, let me show you, the cylinder has a transparency of 0 when we start. But as soon as we click play, we're going to run this script. And this script is going to change the transparency value to a number 0.5. So let's go ahead and do that. If we push play, you'll see, let me go over here and turn around, that it has changed, okay? And we can check this a couple of ways. One is we can just move around and you can see that this thing is slightly transparent. But the other thing we can do is we can go over here to the workspace and we can click on our cylinder. And if we click on our cylinder right here, we have a transparency of 0.5, okay? And so it worked. Our script changed one of the properties of our part, our cylinder. And this is basically all that we do with game programming. It gets really complicated and can be incredibly difficult sometimes, but this is the basic concept. The basic concept is that we are going to select a part and we're going to change some of its properties using a script. And we're going to do this over and over again in order to make our game work. Okay. And so this is it. Like, this is all we're going to do during this course. We're going to select parts and change properties, but we're going to learn a lot of useful programming tools along the way as well. Okay. And so now that we've done this, we've made our first working script. What else can we change? Well, we're going to go through all of the different types of properties that we can change for our parts, and we'll do that in the videos that follow.